My wife betrayed me with my own brother when I left them and married another woman. My family called and asked me to return and start a relationship with her again. Growing up in the heart of California's Central Valley, my life was a mix of challenges and small triumphs. My early years were spent in a cramped trailer near Fresno, where I lived with my mother and two younger siblings. Our modest home was too close to the Southern Pacific Railroad tracks, where the constant rumble of trains served as a reminder of our tough circumstances. Despite these hardships, my mother, a dedicated cashier at a local supermarket, kept our family together after my father, John Miller, left us for another woman. My childhood wasn't easy, but it taught me the value of resilience and determination. My sister, Julia, and I managed to avoid trouble, graduating from high school and moving on to college. I earned a modest scholarship to pursue a degree in marketing, while Julia's academic excellence led her to a successful career in law. Our younger brother, Kevin, however, struggled to find his path, often causing tension within the family. Despite our differences, we each sought our own version of success in our tumultuous family. My sister and I completed our education, with me earning a BA in marketing and Julia securing a substantial scholarship that eventually helped her become a lawyer. Kevin, on the other hand, seemed to excel at causing trouble, earning what I jokingly called an associate's degree in foolishness. Mom would finish her shift at the supermarket at 5:30 p.m. and come home to make supper. The ground shaking from the 6 p.m. freight train signaled us to stop playing, go inside, and set the table. We had moved to the trailer after my father left, so it was just Mom raising us. Other than minimal child support, we never heard from our dad again. Despite the turmoil, Julia and I stayed out of trouble and completed high school and college, thanks to a modest scholarship. I graduated with a BA in marketing, while Julia got a better scholarship and eventually became a lawyer. Kevin, however, seemed to focus on being a nuisance. While Julia got along with Kevin, he and I weren't close. He always seemed jealous of my successes, despite being better looking with his blonde hair and blue eyes. His jobs, grocery stock boy in high school and residential construction as an adult, were respectable, but he lacked the drive to climb the corporate ladder. He did okay, but never reached my income levels. Timing was everything. In 1985, I landed a job as a marketing associate at a California startup that grew into an online giant. 16 years later, I struck gold when it was acquired by a global media conglomerate. By then, I had worked my way up to vice president of marketing and walked away with executive-level stock options and severance money. It was enough to buy a house for my mother, travel the world, drive a luxury car, and live in a mansion with a pool in Palo Alto. However, it also attracted a high-maintenance trophy wife. Life was good until my wealth became incredibly expensive. My trophy wife, Tiffany, timed everything perfectly, marrying me just weeks before my severance payout. Half of my newly acquired fortune went to her, along with the house and my beloved car, in exchange for no alimony. If not for my lawyer demanding a DNA test, I would have paid 18 years of child support for Paul Jr. The test shockingly revealed that my son was actually my nephew. Tiffany's affair partner and the baby's father was none other than my younger brother, Kevin, who was married with 2 kids. Despite the heartbreak, the 3 months I spent with Paul Jr. were the happiest of my life, and losing him hurt more than losing Tiffany. It made me realize how much I loved being a father and stirred up feelings about my own father's abandonment. I couldn't understand why my dad left us if being a father was so great. I even made it a goal to one day visit his grave, just to express my lingering anger. At least Kevin didn't escape unscathed. Tiffany wasn't just a homebody, she was a homewrecker. When Paul Jr.'s DNA results came in, Kevin's wife, Anita, took their daughters and flew back to India. Thanks to my lawyer, I dodged child support, and the court replaced my name on the birth certificate with Kevin's. Paul Jr. was now just Little Paul. It had been a terrible year. Little Paul was born in April. I discovered the affair in June, hired a private investigator, and filed for divorce in July. It was granted in August, finalizing in March. Depressed and filled with self-doubt, I left my shattered life in California for New Mexico, one of the cheapest states to live in. I wasn't poor, but I wanted to stretch my money. I allowed myself one splurge, a restored 1974 Volkswagen Transporter van reminiscent of my high school and college days. It looked rough but was mechanically sound, perfect to avoid theft. I drove 950 miles through Arizona to Gallup, New Mexico, in 2 days, sleeping at a truck stop in Kingman, Arizona. Gallup, with a population of about 21,000 and an average income of $35,000, was ideal. I stayed in a cheap motel and then found a single-wide trailer in Western Skies Mobile Home Park. It was dingy outside but in decent shape inside. I bought it for $527. While unpacking, I noticed my neighbor, a small woman with long dark hair and a ponytail. Eager for a friendly connection, I bought a flower arrangement and fresh cookies from a local market. Armed with these, I knocked on her screen door. A small boy with jet black hair and copper skin answered. I introduced myself, saying, "Hello, I'm your new neighbor, Paul, and I came to say hello." The boy just stared at me silently. The woman I had seen earlier approached with a suspicious look. "Can I help you?" she asked. She was smaller than I thought, about 4 feet 11 inches, wearing a simple blue dress and rubber sandals. From her appearance and accent, I guess she was Filipina. She had a half smile, with the left side of her face drooping slightly, possibly from nerve damage. Her budget glasses were held together by duct tape, and her left eyelid also sagged a bit. Despite this, she was very pretty. Feeling a hint of optimism, I introduced myself again. "Hi, I was just telling your boy that I'm your new neighbor, Paul. I came to say hello." Looking into her nice brown eyes, I remembered the gifts. "Here, these flowers and cookies are for you." She took them, and her suspicious look began to fade into a smile. "Thank you, that's very gracious of you. I'm Aurora Santos, but my friends call me Dawn." She nodded at her son. "That's Jacob. He's 4. Don't mind him staring. He does that with men since his father left." She invited me in and made coffee while Jacob enjoyed the cookies. She explained that her ex-husband was in jail for domestic abuse, which caused her facial nerve damage. At 32, with only a high school education, she worked as a pharmacy cashier and relied on food stamps. I shared my recent divorce and how my wife cheated and tried to pass off another man's baby as mine, which hurt more than losing her. After 2 hours of chatting, we felt like friends. When she hugged me goodbye, the smell of her shampoo and the warmth of her small body made me wish for more than friendship, but it was too soon. The next day, I bought a new mattress, pillows, sheets, kitchen utensils, and a 32-inch flat-screen TV, then focused on finding a job. I had half of what was once a large amount of money, now just sizable, mostly in savings. My credit rating was still in the 800s, so I was okay but knew it wouldn't last forever. I didn't need an executive position, just something to cover groceries. Through a temp agency, I got a job on the loading dock of a shipping logistics company. As the weeks passed, I settled into a routine: breakfast, work, lunch, work, dinner, TV, and sleep. On Saturdays, I would go grocery shopping and invite Dawn and Jacob along since I had a van. It wasn't actually a date, but I enjoyed spending time with them. Jacob was my buddy. If Dawn told him no, I'd secretly buy whatever he wanted and share it later. Sundays were laundry days. After Dawn and Jacob returned from church, we'd walk to the Western Sky laundry room together. Dawn's laundry always took longer, so I'd help with Jacob and fold clothes, sneaking peeks at her underwear, purely out of curiosity. Dawn and I started looking out for each other. When she worked overtime, I'd pick up Jacob from daycare and babysit him. I got good at his bedtime routine, reading stories until he fell asleep. Sometimes, I felt sad thinking about the baby I lost due to Tiffany's infidelity, but I quickly moved on. We exchanged keys to our trailers, and when I got the flu, Dawn found me bedridden and took care of me, cooking chicken soup and changing my bedding. Unlike Tiffany, who barely helped when I was sick, Dawn was attentive. As September turned into October, I realized I wanted more than just friendship with Dawn, but hesitated due to my insecurities. One Saturday, a rude cashier gave me the push I needed. Dawn was ahead of me in line, and when she used food stamps, the cashier muttered, "Another leech." Dawn's hand shook slightly, and she lowered her head in shame. Angry, I went around my cart, pulled out my platinum card, and handed it to the cashier, saying, "She's no leech. She's my girlfriend. I'll pay." The cashier shut up quickly. I paid for Dawn's groceries and mine, and we left. Looking back, I realized I used money to solve a problem I should have handled differently. My strong feelings for Dawn overrode my social instincts. In the parking lot, I loaded our groceries as Dawn wiped away her tears. "Thank you, Paul," she said quietly. "You didn't have to do all that." "Playing dumb," I replied. "Do all what?" "Paying for my groceries and lying about me being your girlfriend," she said, her soft Filipina accent making girlfriend sound heartwarming. After living next to her for a couple of months, I liked almost everything about her. "Dawn, you don't deserve to be treated like that. I don't mind taking care of you and Jacob." I paused, lowering my voice. "Besides, it doesn't have to be a lie, you know?" Her eyes widened in surprise. "What do you mean?" Right there by the shopping carts, I impulsively made my move. I hugged her closely, not just a friendly hug. "What I'm saying is, it's up to you. If you want to be my girlfriend, I'd love to be your boyfriend." I put it out there. She gently pushed away, clearly surprised. I wasn't sorry. It meant I was ready to move on from my ex-wife's torment. I don't know," she stammered. "I need to think about it. I never expected this." While Dawn got in the front seat, I secured Jacob in his child's seat, then drove us home. Back at the trailer, Dawn took Jacob out while I unloaded groceries. After putting hers in her kitchen, I unpacked mine. I was putting away my snacks when there was a tap at my door. To my delight, it was Dawn. "Come in. If you were my girlfriend, you wouldn't have to knock," I teased. Dawn entered and sat at my table, looking serious. "I asked Mrs. Meyer to watch Jacob so we could talk." "Paul, were you serious about wanting me to be your girlfriend?" I took her hands. "Dawn, I swear on my grandmother's grave, I'm 100% serious. I want us to be a couple." She shook her head. "Why do you want me? It makes no sense. You could have any woman. I'm a broke single mom on food stamps. I have the figure of an ironing board, and I'm disfigured. If I don't use a straw, I drool. My left eyelid doesn't close fully. I wear an eye patch at night. You should be embarrassed to be with me." I groaned in exasperation, angry at what her ex had done to her self-esteem. "Aurora Dos Santos, that's your opinion, but it's wrong. I thought you were pretty the first day we met, and as I've gotten to know you, I found you sweet and kind." I walked around the table, pulled her to her feet, and held her shoulders. "And I find you hot as hell. You said I could have any woman. Well, here's a news flash. I want you." I felt it was the right moment to kiss her, so I did. Her unique smile made the kiss different but enjoyable. Holding her close, I whispered, "You're flawless." She sighed. "You're a man, Paul Scott, and men are usually wrong. But I want to believe you." Despite the generalization, she gave her answer. "I'll be your girlfriend, but you need to start coming to Sunday Mass with me and Jacob. You need to be a good role model for my son." She kissed me again, long and soft. Though I wasn't religious, that kiss gave me all the motivation I needed. "Agreed," I whispered, unsure about being a role model but willing to try for her. She interrupted my thoughts, saying, "I need to make dinner for Jacob. Tomorrow, take me back to the store. I need a few things to make a special dinner for my new boyfriend." She kissed me again and added, "Please take things slow, Paul. I've been through a lot, and I'm afraid your feelings may not last. I'm not a big city girl eager to trap a man. If you want my heart, be patient." She walked out, and I admired her as she crossed the driveway with a happy spring in her step. It gave me hope that made me feel worthwhile. The next day, Morin Meyer, a retired hairdresser, babysat Jacob while Dawn and I went grocery shopping. To avoid another condescending cashier incident, I withdrew $200 from an ATM and handed it to her. She tried to refuse, but I insisted, saying, "I'm your boyfriend now. If I want to spoil you, it's my prerogative." She looked down and quietly said, "Thank you, Paul." When we arrived at the market, Dawn asked me to wait in the van. With Gallup's temperature in the mid-60s, I rolled down the windows and took a nap on the back seat. I woke up to the sound of the side doors opening and bags being loaded, then felt Dawn's lips on mine. I pulled her close and whispered, "I miss my girlfriend." Noticing the top buttons of her blouse were undone, I teased, "Hey, were you trying to make me jealous in the supermarket?" Dawn giggled. "Are you really jealous?" I kissed her neck, growling, "Of course. You're my girlfriend. No way I'm letting anyone else have you. Dawn gently pulled away, reminding me about the perishables before getting into the front seat. She kissed me again, saying, "You're doing a great job as my boyfriend." Her praise made me insanely happy. Back at the trailers, she picked up Jacob from Mrs. Meyer while I unloaded groceries. Dawn banished us to my trailer while she cooked. We watched a Disney movie and played a board game. The delicious smell of roast pork and biscuits wafted through the open windows. When dinner was ready, Jacob eagerly sat at the table, and Dawn served him first. She placed a napkin in my lap and kissed my cheek, explaining the meal. "It's a Philippine dish my mother taught me, beef chuck roast with strips of pork fat marinated, seared, and braised with tomatoes, plus fresh-made biscuits and chocolate rice pudding for dessert." Stunned, I hugged her. "Sweetie, this must have been a lot of work. What did I do to deserve it?" She kissed my head, saying, "You're my man now, taking care of me and my son. As your girlfriend, I can spoil you too." I pulled her into my lap and asked Jacob, "Hey buddy, can I kiss your mom?" With his mouth full, he nodded enthusiastically. I kissed Dawn softly, feeling like I never wanted it to end. When it did, I whispered, "Aurora Dawn Santos, I am absolutely falling in love with you." I realized I had everything: a decent job, a good meal, a boy who looked up to me, and most importantly, a woman who would never cheat on me. I felt a pang of remorse about Tiffany, but quickly dismissed it. Dawn responded to my declaration with another tender kiss, then dabbed her mouth with a napkin. "Eat your dinner before it gets cold," she softly chided, filling my plate. Dinner and dessert were delicious. Afterward, I cleaned up while Dawn got Jacob ready for bed. She returned as I was about to start on the pots and pans, wrapped the dish towel around my neck, and kissed me. "Jacob wants you to help with his goodnight prayers," she said, smirking. I walked to Jacob's room, where he was on his knees, hands folded, ready to pray. I joined him, and he seriously intoned, "God bless Mommy, Lola and Lolo in the Philippines, Mrs. Meyer for taking care of me, and Mr. Paul for playing with me and making Mommy happy again. Amen." Realizing it was my turn, I folded my hands and said, "God bless my sister Julia and my mom. God bless Mrs. Meyer for being a good neighbor. God bless Jacob for being my new friend." Struggling to think of what to say about Dawn, I added, "God bless Dawn for showing me I could love again. Amen." Jacob hugged me, so I picked him up, tucked him in, and kissed his forehead. "Good night, little buddy." "Good night, Mr. Paul. Tell Mommy she still needs to kiss me good night too." I nodded and returned to the kitchen. Dawn was finishing the dishes. I lifted her up and kissed her. "Jacob needs your kiss good night," I said, setting her down. Hugging her, I whispered, "Don't be gone too long. You don't want your boyfriend to get lonely. Go sit on the couch and keep your lap open. Your girlfriend will be right back," she replied, slipping out of my arms and heading to Jacob's room. I stretched out on the sofa and turned on the TV. A couple of minutes later, Dawn joined me, and we started making out. Things got heated, but when I tried to reach under her blouse, she gently pulled my hand away. "I'm sorry, Paul. I really want you, but it's too soon for that. Please don't hate me." Holding her close, I calmed my emotions and kissed the top of her head. "I understand. I don't hate you. I meant it when I said I was falling in love with you. I know you need time, and I promise I'll be patient." She buried her face in my chest and quietly cried, dampening my shirt. That shirt became sacred. I decided I'd never wash or wear it again. Eventually, Dawn stopped crying and got up. As I walked her to the door and turned to thank her for the meal, she pulled me down for another kiss. Afterward, she opened the door, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "Thank you for being patient. I think I'm falling in love with you too." Hearing this made me ecstatic. I told her, "Actually, that makes me feel a lot better. Good night, my darling." She smiled and closed the door behind her. The next morning, I went to work, but my mind was on Dawn. With Tiffany, the physical aspect of our relationship was intense, but it was shallow. We had good times, but we never maintained a meaningful connection. Solving problems with money instead of communication might have made it easy for my brother Kevin to seduce her. With Dawn, it was different. We liked each other, and we were affectionate, But since physical intimacy was off the table for now, we focused on building our relationship in other ways. Just a couple of months in, I felt truly committed to her. I was confident Dawn would never cheat on me, and I hoped she felt the same. I was optimistic, but knew I needed to be patient as I promised. We discussed personal preferences and long-term goals. Gallup was temporary for both of us, and we hoped to move together when the time was right. I didn't pressure Dawn about my big goal of having a baby and being a father again, though I longed for it after my brief experience with little Paul. At 37, I wanted to experience fatherhood again before people mistook me for a grandfather. One warm Saturday afternoon in October, while sitting alone in my trailer, I overheard Dawn and Mrs. Meyer talking. Dawn had just paid Mrs. Meyer for babysitting, and they were making small talk until Mrs. Meyer switched to giving her opinion on Dawn's life. Jacob is such a sweet boy. He shouldn't grow up as an only child. He needs a sibling. Don't you agree? Dawn replied, a brother or sister would be nice, but I'm not in a position to. Mrs. Meyer laughed. Not in a position? You've got a man who's crazy about you. You better get in position, preferably under him. Yes, Paul's my boyfriend, but we haven't, Dawn started to explain. Oh, I know. I've seen him walking funny back to his trailer like he's carrying something heavy in his briefs. Forget security cameras. Mrs. Meyer sees everything. If I were 15 years younger, I'd be all over that man. There are plenty of women here wanting him, but he's only got eyes for you. For now, anyway. I know, Dawn stammered, clearly flustered. Mrs. Meyer continued, Dawn, you're the queen of Paul Scott's heart, but to keep him, you need to take him to bed soon. He and your son adore each other. Imagine how happy he'd be if you gave him a child. Mrs. Meyer was right. I'd be overjoyed if Dawn got pregnant. I hoped Dawn would take her advice to heart. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep despite drinking 3 more beers. I kept imagining a pregnant Dawn, and the promise to be patient felt heavier than ever. The night was hot and humid, and rain was forecasted. I heard a key in my door. Dawn was the only one with a key. I pretended to sleep to see what she'd do. She removed her shoes and padded into my bedroom, kissing me gently. I reached up to her, but she pushed my hands away and asked, Do you really love me? What? I could have given a long explanation, but I kept it simple. Of course I do. If that's true, then do everything I say. No questions. This was unexpected. My gentle, passive girlfriend was now giving me orders. What had Mrs. Meyer's talk done? I wondered, but I nodded in agreement. The streetlights provided enough light to see Dawn in her old bathrobe, her hair in a loose bun. She pulled a sleep mask from her pocket and blindfolded me. Things were getting interesting. What about your ex-wife? What if she wants to reconcile? I shook my head angrily. No, she's nothing to me after what she did. She continued, What about the women in the trailer park? Mrs. Meyer said many want to sleep with you. They're prettier and willing. You wouldn't have to wait anymore. Trying to clear my head, I said, Dawn, I don't want anyone else. I'm all yours. You showed me I could love again. Suddenly, she kissed me. I know waiting has been hard for you. It's been hard for me too, but I'm still dealing with trauma from my ex. Horrified, I responded, Dawn, you know I'd never force you, right? Yes. You've been loving and kind. Even Jacob noticed. But I'm not ready for that yet. My heart sank, but she added, I have another idea. I was all ears. What do you have in mind? You just lay there and listen, okay? I agreed, wondering what she planned. She told me about her past, and I listened. When I took off the sleep mask, she was tying her robe. I have to get back to my trailer. Jacob will wake soon. Clutching her robe, she bent over and kissed me. I love you, Paul. We'll be together soon, I promise. After our early morning moment, I was even more in love with Dawn. At home, I took every chance to caress her. Jacob and I even made a game of it. If I kissed Dawn, I'd ask Jacob, What day is it? If he said it was double kiss day, I'd kiss her again. He loved deciding how many kisses his mommy got. When we went out together, I became more protective, feeling our relationship was getting serious. I withdrew $2,500 from savings and bought her a 2014 Toyota Corolla so she didn't have to take the bus to work. The exterior was rough, but I had it checked to ensure it was safe. Dawn laughed, cried, and then took me to her trailer, where we made out like kids on our first date. I took Dawn to the eye doctor. He gave her medicated eye drops for her dryness, and we ordered new glasses. A couple of weeks later, she had new Dolce & Gabbana frames, transforming her look into a hot, naughty librarian. I kept jokingly asking her to shush me and charge overdue fines. Work was going well too. I was converted to full-time status with benefits, got a raise, and a month later was promoted to shipping supervisor. Feeling optimistic, I decided to buy an engagement ring and propose at the company holiday party in December. Even though my divorce wouldn't be final until March, I figured a diamond ring would reassure Dawn about our future. For Thanksgiving, I asked Dawn to be my date to the holiday party. She hesitated, feeling her clothes weren't nice enough. Mrs. Meyer suggested her sister, Betty Ward, a retired seamstress. Betty took Dawn's measurements and returned in 2 weeks with a beautiful party dress. They kept it a surprise from me. On the night of the party, I went next door to pick up Dawn. Mrs. Meyer was there to babysit Jacob. When I mentioned the party would be over by midnight, she laughed and said, "If you bring her home before morning, there's something seriously wrong with you." Then I heard Dawn's soft voice, "I'm ready, Paul." I turned, and my jaw dropped. Dawn wore a bright red knee-length dress with a low back and one shoulder sleeve that modestly concealed her cleavage but left the other shoulder bare. The dress hugged her curves, disproving her claim of having an ironing board figure. I silently thanked my lucky stars that she was with me. I wore a charcoal-colored wool suit from my vice president days, but I felt like a dull rock next to my stunning date. Mrs. Meyer had styled Dawn's long dark hair into a braided side bun. Her red shoes matched the dress and were sensible flats, unlike Tiffany's dangerous 4-inch heels. Dawn was undeniably the most beautiful woman at the party. When we walked into the hotel ballroom, many younger guys checked out my date. I put a possessive arm around her and asked, 20 feet in, and guys are already checking you out. Should I be worried? She kissed my hand and said, "Paul, I'm not Tiffany. You'll never have to worry about me." We found seats, and I got us some champagne. The DJ announced it was time to dance, starting with a slow song. Dawn and I danced, continuing through the next slow song. When the music got faster, we returned to our seats. A younger executive asked Dawn to dance, but she politely refused. Another executive from sales asked her, and I encouraged her to go for one dance. I watched him draw her close but kept my cool, ready to act if necessary. Soon, he whispered something in her ear. Dawn pulled away and returned to our table, visibly upset. That man invited me to his room later. He doesn't even know me. I switched from jealous to concerned. "Are you all right?" "Yes." I told him the only man I was interested in sharing a bed with was the man who brought me, and then I walked away. Processing her words, I asked, "Are you saying?" Before I could finish, she slipped into my lap and kissed me passionately. "Yes," she whispered. "You've been loving and patient, making me feel secure. I'm not afraid anymore, Paul. Let's get a room and go upstairs." The second chapter of my life began in room 538 of the historic El Rancho Hotel on Route 66. Once inside, I grabbed a small bottle of champagne from the minibar, expensive but worth it. I poured us both a glass and took her out on the balcony. The sun had set, and the city lights provided a beautiful view. Holding her from behind, I reflected on my journey. Months ago, I was devastated by my wife and brother's betrayal, losing half my fortune. Now, I had reset my life with a decent job and a woman who restored my confidence. I was ready for the next step. As it got cooler, I covered her with a shawl, then knelt and took out the ring box. Lost in thought, she didn't notice until I tickled her bum. Laughing, she turned and asked, "Paul, what are you doing?" Her words died when she saw me on one knee. She burst into tears. "Happy ones, I hoped." "Aurora Dos Santos," I began, "you changed my life when you made that special meal for me. I knew then that I wanted to be with you forever. Will you marry me?" She nodded, yes, through her tears and held out her hand. I slipped the ring on her finger, picked her up, and carried her to the bed. We spent the night and early morning practicing the art of conception until we were exhausted. My new fiancé was committed to giving me what I wanted. We woke up for breakfast, then requested a late checkout for one more try. This time, she wore her glasses, playfully finding me every time I groaned. Coming home at noon in our party clothes raised eyebrows at Western Sky's mobile home park. Dawn's wholesome reputation probably made people think I had corrupted her, but their scowls turned to smiles when she showed off her engagement ring. Mrs. Meyer was pleased, and Jacob was thrilled that I was going to marry his mommy and be his new daddy. Now that I had put a ring on Dawn's finger, we no longer had to hide that we were sleeping together. If Jacob was in the trailer at bedtime, we'd hold back and just kiss and caress in bed. After he was tucked in, if those kisses and caresses led to more, well, that was a bonus for me. Dawn surprised me 5 Sundays later at St. Francis Church. Father Thomas gave a sermon on Genesis 1 verse 28 about being fruitful and multiplying. During the monthly blessing for expectant mothers, Dawn stood up and joined the others. It took all my self-control not to jump up and shout for joy. She wasn't showing yet, so Jacob was confused. My hands shook as I explained he was going to be a big brother. After the blessing, she returned, and I threw my arms around her. "I love you with all my heart," was all I could say. In a few weeks, I would be free from Tiffany and able to marry my new wife, the mother of my children. It was late February, about 3 weeks before my divorce from Tiffany was finalized, and I couldn't wait to marry Dawn. My fiancée was about 12 weeks pregnant. Given her tiny size, her baby bump was already showing, and I made sure to sing to it and kiss it every night. It felt so good to know this baby was truly mine. Even though it was only the size of a tennis ball, there was nothing I wouldn't do for it. There was no way my brother could take this child from me. Just as I thought everything was going smoothly, my cell phone rang one Saturday while we were grocery shopping. Caller ID showed it was my younger sister, Julia. This was unusual. Julia lived in San Diego, and we hadn't seen each other since Christmas at Mom's place, right before my marriage blew up. I hadn't heard from her when I filed for divorce, which was expected. Julia was close to Kevin growing up, so I figured she'd support him. This call meant something was wrong with Mom, or my brother needed money, or a kidney donor. If it was about Mom, we could talk. If it was about Kevin, I'd end the call. I answered the phone. "What's up, Julia? Is Mom okay?" I asked. "Yes, she's fine," Julia replied. "Great. Thanks for calling," I said, ready to hang up. "Paul, wait. Don't hang up," Julia said urgently. "Sis, you know I have zero interest in our brother unless you're calling to tell me he's dead." "We're done talking," I responded coldly. "Kevin's not in the U.S. He wants his wife and kids back, so he's gone to India to beg Anita to forgive him," Julia explained. I laughed at the idea of my brother being sorry about anything. I couldn't care less if that backstabbing creep dies. If he's in India, I hope he gets bitten by a cobra. "Goodbye, Julia." I ended the call. Dawn came back from the produce section and saw I was upset. I explained about my sister's call when my phone rang again. "Julia again." I answered, "I told you, sis, I don't care about Kevin. Why are you calling me?" I demanded. "Paul, please don't cut me off. I'm not calling about Kevin. I'm calling about Paul Jr., Julia said. When she called him that, my heart turned to ice. His name is Paul, not my son. My name is no longer on the birth certificate, I said, my voice cold and hard. "Kevin says," Julia began. "Would you like to screw off now, or piss me off more?" I interrupted angrily. "Damn it, Paul, listen. Kevin wrecked your life, and I can't excuse that, but our nephew is innocent. He needs our help," Julia insisted. "Oh, please, Julia. That kid is no relative of mine. He's dead to me, just like his parents," I shouted. I didn't mean it when I called Paul Jr. a hellspawn. He was just an innocent baby. Hearing his name reminded me of the pain of losing him, and I wanted to lash out at Tiffany. By now, I was so loud the guy on the loading dock could hear me. I shut off my phone, gathered Dawn, Jacob, and our groceries, and left. For the rest of the evening, the call's bad feelings put me in a foul mood, affecting my 2 favorite people. This made me feel even worse. During Jacob's goodnight prayers, he blessed his mom, his grandparents in the Philippines, and Mrs. Meyer. But when he came to me, he said, "God bless my new daddy, and please don't let him forget he loves me." I broke down. I scooped Jacob up, sat on the bed, held him close, kissed his head, sobbed, and told him how much I loved him. Dawn came in, gently pried him from my arms, tucked him in, and led me out of his room. She went back in and assured him I was just very sad but would always, always love him. When she came out, she led me to our bedroom. During all the months I'd been in Gallup, I tried to stay strong and kept my feelings about the betrayals and divorce locked away. My sister's call had torn open those wounds. Emotionally crippled, I stood still as my fiancé unbuttoned my shirt, removed my jeans, and laid me face down on the bed. Then I felt her hands rubbing my back, soon followed by her lips kissing from the base of my neck to my lower back. "You're going to be fine," she whispered, her soft Filipina accent making it sound like together. Hearing her, I realized several important things. 1. I was not alone. I had a loving woman and a sweet little boy who I'd soon be adopting. 2. My soon-to-be ex and my sister had no real control over me anymore. And 3. I loved hearing Dawn's accent. It was incredibly arousing. Rolling onto my back, I reached for her and pulled her to me. She was wearing the same frumpy light blue dress and rubber sandals she had on when I first met her, and she looked hot as hell in it. I made love to her, caressing her belly. I thought about my mom, now retired and living in the house I bought her in Fresno. She was probably sad since my brother and his family were now in India. She'd lost access to her granddaughters, whom she adored. Given she'd always despised Tiffany, I doubted she'd be involved with little Paul. Maybe it would make her happy to learn about her 2 new grandchildren. Kissing my fiancée, I asked her, "How would you feel about meeting my mother?" The next day, I called Mom and told her I wanted her to meet Dawn and Jacob. I was surprised when her response was not exactly enthusiastic, but she said it would be nice to see me and have a little boy in the house again. Dawn and I both got approval from our jobs for a week's vacation. Since the drive from Gallup to Fresno was 12 hours by car, we opted to fly. The weather was cool, so both of us wore hooded sweatshirts. Dawn's hoodie did a good job of hiding her pregnant belly, so Mom would be pleasantly surprised when Dawn took it off. When the car service dropped us off, the house looked better than when I bought it for her. My mother had done some nice landscaping in the front. Mom greeted us at the door, giving me and Jacob a hug, but only shaking Dawn's hand, saying, "It's nice to meet you." And that was all. Given this was her future daughter-in-law, I suddenly got a cold feeling in my stomach. We went into the kitchen and sat at the small table. Mom served Jacob a glass of orange juice and a peanut butter sandwich, which he happily accepted, while Dawn and I just asked for coffee. Only after making sure everyone was served properly did she sit down to talk. The cold feeling in my stomach grew as Mom began speaking. "You know, Paul, your divorce isn't final yet," she started cautiously, glancing at Dawn, who was sipping her coffee in silence. "Dawn seems nice, and Jacob is a sweet boy, but don't you think it's too soon to get engaged again? I mean, it's been less than a year since Tiffany made her mistake." The air felt thick. My jaw clenched as I gripped my cup. She was going there, trying to reopen old wounds with the same woman who had betrayed me. With Jacob sitting in front of me, I couldn't yell. In a low voice, I growled, "Mother, I think you might be losing your memory. My ex-wife didn't make a mistake. She slept with my brother and had his baby. And no, it's not too soon. My divorce will be final in 3 weeks, and I'm starting my new life with a woman who actually loves me." Mom leaned over, patting Dawn on the hand, who gave a polite smile but stayed silent. "I'm sure Dawn is very loving and kind. But, Paul, you had a good life before Tiffany's decision. I just don't think you should rush into things. After all, it's still not too late to consider reconciliation." That last word hit me like a brick. Reconciliation? My mind raced. Why would my own mother, who had despised Tiffany even before the affair, suddenly push for this? Then I heard the front door open. I froze. 2 sets of footsteps echoed down the hall. Panic set in. I knew those footsteps. Sure enough, my sister Julia appeared in the doorway, holding none other than little Paul Jr., and behind her, there she was, Tiffany. Tiffany greeted me softly. "Hello, Paul. You're looking good." I glared at her, unable to hide my disgust. Despite her attempts at looking polished with beauty treatments and Botox injections, her face looked worn and tired. "Thanks. You look like crap," I snapped, turning to Dawn. "Call us a cab." It's time to leave. Before Tiffany could say another word, Julia slid a large brown envelope across the table toward me. What the hell is this, Julia? I demanded. It's a California Judicial Council form, Paul. CIV 110, the official request for dismissal of your divorce, Julia explained in her lawyer tone. Tiffany wants to reconcile before the divorce is final, but since you filed, you have to sign the request to dismiss the case. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I held up my hand, shaking my head. Wait a minute. Who are you representing, Julia? Since Paul Jr. is my nephew, I'm acting on Tiffany's behalf, Julia responded, her voice calm and steady. My blood boiled. My own sister and mother were siding with the woman who destroyed my life. You're out of your mind, Julia, I spat. Tiffany, in what twisted reality did you think I'd forgive what you did to me? Tiffany took a deep breath and stepped forward, her voice trembling. Paul, please listen to me. I know I ruined everything, and I'll always regret it. But I love you, and I want us to be a family again. For the sake of Paul Jr. Her calling him Paul Jr. instead of little Paul sent me over the edge. There is no Paul Jr., I said coldly. My name is no longer on his birth certificate. He's not my son. Tiffany's voice wavered as she knelt beside me, grabbing my legs, pleading, Paul, please, I'll do anything. You can have everything back, the house, the cars, the money. I'll put it all in your name. I'll even sign a postnuptial agreement. We can go to therapy together. Please, Paul. I looked down at her, stone-faced, while she kept begging. We could be rich again. You can have it all back. Just stop the divorce. Rich again? I could feel Tiffany's desperation oozing from her words. She thought I cared about the money? I had already rebuilt my life, found happiness with Dawn, and started a new chapter. There was no going back. I spoke slowly, keeping my voice level. Tiffany, if you had made this offer before I left for New Mexico, I might have considered it. I paused, then smirked. Oh, wait, I couldn't. You and my brother were still screwing then, weren't you? Tiffany gasped, tears welling up in her eyes. I could hear Julia taking a deep breath beside me, but I cut her off. And you, Julia, you're a piece of work. Siding with Tiffany after what she did to me? You're done. Finally, I turned to my mother. Mom, I bought you this house because you deserved it after raising 3 kids on your own. But you've lost your way. If you can't see why I need to move on from Tiffany, then you've lost me too. The room was silent. Mom looked down at little Paul, now resting in her arms, her voice breaking. He's innocent, Paul. He's your nephew, but he needs a good father. I stood up, towering over the table, my voice firm. He already has a father, and it's not me. Suddenly, the kitchen door creaked open. Dawn stood there with Jacob, her hoodie draped over her arm, revealing her small but unmistakable baby bump. Her eyes locked on me, calm and confident. She softly said, Paul, sweetheart, the cab's here. I glanced at Tiffany, Julia, and my mother. 3 women who had once shaped my life, and then back at Dawn. Yes, Mom, I said, nodding toward Dawn's belly. As you can see, Dawn is expecting. And you know what the best part is? I kissed Dawn on the forehead, then looked directly at Tiffany. I know for sure that I'm the father. Tiffany's sobs echoed behind us as we walked out, leaving the 3 of them in stunned silence. That day marked the final turning point. The ambush at my mother's house may have been a last-ditch effort to bring me back to a broken past, but it only solidified my commitment to my future with Dawn and our growing family. There was no looking back. Dawn was my life now, and no one, not my ex-wife, not my sister, and not even my mother, could change that. As the cab drove away, Dawn squeezed my hand, smiling softly. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. I looked at her, my heart full. I've never been more sure of anything, I said, kissing her hand. This is our future, Dawn. We pulled away from the house, leaving behind the ghosts of my past and moving toward the new life we were building together. A life of love, loyalty, and the family I had always wanted. We drove in silence for a few minutes, the weight of what had just happened still hanging in the air. I glanced over at Dawn, who was looking out the window, her hand still in mine. Jacob sat quietly beside her, sensing that something important had just occurred. "Are you okay?" I asked softly. She turned to me, her eyes filled with warmth and understanding. "I'm fine, Paul. I'm just thinking about everything you've gone through and how strong you've been. You stood up for us today, for our family."